So, Martin, The Hobbit. Is this the most anticipated film, do you think, you will ever be in?
Quite possibly. And, I don't think... There aren't many more anticipated films, I think, as far as a huge audience is concerned. So, yeah, it probably will be, barring the second and third instalments. Yeah, they'll probably all be the most anticipated films.
I mean, when you get the call or the inkling that you're going to get a job like this, it's not just taking the job, is it? It's a lifestyle decision. You've got to move to the other side of the planet.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Spend a long time there, etc. And you become part of the Tolkien canon, where it has a very protective fan base.
Yeah.
Did you think about how it might affect your life in 15, 20 years' time?
I mean, I was aware of it because, obviously I've, in the last 12, 13 years, I've gone through things in my career that have really impacted on my life already, that have changed my life, that have, made me not anonymous, gone from a sort of working actor to being someone who isn't that, who can't really get the tube after chucking out time because that gets a little bit boring. So I've already incrementally, that's sort of been happening, certainly in Britain anyway, But the rest of the world, of course, it's going to impact on me in a different way. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen?
When Peter Jackson says you were his only choice, and he had to, reschedule filming, and you had to come back and do Sherlock.
Yes.
Was that added pressure on your shoulders, or do you just feel touched almost by that?
I feel very touched by it. I mean, and it kind of, in a way, it sort of takes pressure away. I found it took pressure away from me. I didn't really feel that kind of... I mean, I felt pressure that I wanted to be good, that I always do. always feel that pressure that I'm a very hard taskmaster for myself, but... No, I didn't really feel that external pressure. Partly because probably Pete was so adamant that I should be the one to play it.
Your first scene you filmed, I think, was with Andy, with Gollum. Was that almost the best way to get into Middle-earth, straight in at the deep end?
I think so, yeah. I think so. Because it informs a lot of how you end up playing the part. Rather than just kind of sitting down reading a book thinking, how would Gollum do this? Sorry, how would Bilbo do this? When you've got Gollum coming at you, then you just have to react, and that's I think the best acting is reacting, I think.
Did you find it more difficult to react because obviously a lot of it is green screen and...
Not in that case. I mean, in that case it was pure theatre. So so Andy as Gollum is just a force of nature, as I'm sure you know. So that wasn't difficult at all. That was the easiest thing to react. I mean, it's harder when you have to imagine a warg, or imagine whatever else, a goblin or a troll, but even that, there's kind of fun in that. I didn't think I would have fun doing that, but I actually did. It was quite freeing. It was quite liberating just to kind of go, yeah, okay, there isn't a goblin there because there isn't such thing as a real goblin, but in your head, there is.
And what about the scale of the sets? I think the first thing we saw you in, the office, that tiny little office in Slough, it was filmed, and then the scale of these sets in New Zealand, I mean, how big were they?
They were smaller than The Office, actually. No, they weren't. Because The Office was a lot of CGI. To get things that dull, you have to create that in a computer. Yeah, of course, it was very different. Very different. I mean, I think everyone on that set, regardless of all our experiences, and there was a pretty disparate range of experience and age and all that. I don't think anyone has seen that sort of set, I mean, apart from the other people who've been on Lord of the Rings before, the scale of it is quite magisterial.
And how did you approach the part, from the fact that Peter Jackson said he always imagines hobbits as Englishmen? How do you play an Englishman if you're already an Englishman?
Well, it's a good question. It's a good question. It's a question that I had for Pete. So in the first couple of weeks when we were doing Gollum, and a couple of times Pete said to me, because we're sussing out who Bilbo is, like how I'm going to play him. Because up till that point, I'd sort of been kind of going, how do you think I should play him? And he's going, you are Bilbo, don't worry about it. You've got nothing. So when it came to it, like in the negotiation of it, the minutiae of that, and him saying things like, remember, he's got that kind of Englishness. And I'm like, well, how do you play that if you are English? It's like, how do you tell an Italian to be Italian? Do they just gesticulate a bit more? Do we just feel a bit more uptight? I don't know. I understand if you're... not from Britain, that you would have a very clear idea of what Englishness is, but I think it's a bit more muddied for us because we know the truth. It's a bit more complex.
Did you rock up on the set on the first day with a bowler hat, an umbrella, and...
Weirdly enough, I did. There was a thing at first. There's a blessing of the space, a Maori blessing called a pōwhiri, which is a ceremony which they do. It's based on a kind of slightly warrior-like, but also inviting you onto their space kind of thing. And they do it every time on Pete's films, I think. And I kind of said, well, so we should dress up, right? Because they're going to be in traditional gear, so we should dress up. And the guy went, yeah, I think you should, fine, if you want to dress up. So I wore a tie, shirt, chinos, lovely pair of loafers, and I looked like Dr. Livingstone. It was ridiculous. I may as well have had a pith helmet on, because everyone else, as in true Kiwi style, rocked up in rugby shorts and flip-flops, so I was ridiculously overdressed, but I'm quite used to that.
You are Bilbo.
Well,
Martin,
thanks a lot.
to meet you.
Thank you.